Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that might sound a little heavy, but it's absolutely crucial for understanding our world and safeguarding our future. We're talking about the astonishingly common, yet often ignored, history of financial systems failing. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Oh great, another doomsday prediction. But hold on. This isn't about fear-mongering. It's about historical patterns, about learning from the past, and about empowering ourselves with knowledge. Because let's be honest, every empire, every government at some point has sworn up and down that their money is safe, that their promises will last forever. And almost every single time, history has proven them wrong. From the grand halls of ancient Rome to the tumultuous streets of modern Lebanon, people have woken up to find their life savings worthless, their salaries meaningless, and their futures stolen by systems they once thought were unshakable. This isn't some rare freak accident. Currency collapse, financial instability. It's almost like a rule, an unfortunate but consistent rhythm in the symphony of human history. So, why does this keep happening? And more importantly, what can we learn from it? Join me as we journey through time, exploring fascinating examples of societies grappling with the erosion of their wealth and discover key insights that can help us navigate the economic landscape of today and tomorrow. We'll look at the Roman Empire, the French Revolution, the American Confederacy, and even modern-day examples. It's a journey filled with incredible stories and powerful lessons. So, buckle up, let's rewind the clock, way back to ancient Rome. This was a civilization that defined power, engineering, and organization for centuries. You'd think their currency, the denarius, was as solid as the Colosseum itself, right? Well, think again. Over time, the Roman emperors, facing mounting expenses, wars, public works, lavish lifestyles, started a practice called debasement. They'd literally melt down existing silver coins and mix in cheaper base metals like copper. Initially, it was just a little bit, maybe 5–10%. Nobody really noticed at first, but the temptation was too great. Over centuries, the silver content of the denarius plummeted. By the 3rd century AD, a denarius contained less than 5% silver. Imagine that. A coin that was once almost pure silver was now practically a copper slug with a silver wash. What happened? Prices skyrocketed, people lost trust in the currency, and the Roman economy spiraled. Merchants started demanding payment in actual goods or in foreign, more stable currencies. Soldiers, paid in debased coins, grew restless. This wasn't the only reason Rome fell, of course, but economic instability and rampant inflation were massive cracks in its foundation. The value of their money just evaporated. Fast forward to 18th century France, specifically the tumultuous years of the French Revolution. The monarchy was overthrown, a new republic was established, and with it, a new currency was introduced, the assignat. Initially, the assignats were a brilliant idea, meant to be backed by confiscated church lands. The government issued them to pay off debts, and people accepted them because they were theoretically backed by tangible assets. But, as with Rome, the temptation to print more and more became irresistible. War expenses, internal strife, and the general chaos of the revolution led the government to issue assignats far beyond the value of the lands backing them. They printed them like there was no tomorrow, believing that more money would solve their problems. And what happened? The value of the assignat plunged dramatically. Prices of everyday goods, bread, meat, fuel, soared to unimaginable levels. People had wheelbarrows full of paper money that couldn't even buy a loaf of bread. The French government even went to extreme lengths, making it illegal to refuse assignats and imposing price controls. But it was all in vain. The currency became so worthless that people started burning them for heat rather than using them to buy anything. This hyperinflation fueled widespread poverty, hunger, and social unrest, culminating in the reign of terror and political instability that lasted for years. The dreams of a prosperous republic were nearly choked by mountains of worthless paper. Now let's cross the Atlantic to a more recent and perhaps more familiar example: the Confederate States of America during the American Civil War. When the Southern states seceded, they needed to finance a war effort against the industrial might of the Union. They issued Confederate dollars, essentially paper money with a promise to pay after the war. Initially, people accepted them out of patriotism and necessity. But the Confederacy faced enormous challenges. They couldn't tax effectively, they couldn't borrow much internationally, and they kept printing money to fund their military. The Union blockade stifled their trade, and as the war turned against them, confidence in a Confederate victory, and thus in their currency, evaporated. By the end of the war, Confederate dollars were literally worth less than the paper they were printed on. Soldiers, paid in these nearly worthless notes, struggled to provide for their families. Civilians watched their life savings disappear. It is a stark reminder of how deeply intertwined a currency's value is with the political and military stability of the issuing entity. When the promise of victory crumbled, so did the value of their money. And finally, let's bring it closer to our own times. The 20th and 21st centuries are littered with examples. The Weimar Republic in Germany after World War I, where a wheelbarrow of cash couldn't buy a loaf of bread. Zimbabwe in the 2000s, where bills were printed in denominations of trillions. And more recently, Venezuela and Lebanon, where hyperinflation has devastated the lives of millions. In Lebanon, for instance, a severe economic crisis in recent years has seen the Lebanese pound lose over 90% of its value against the US dollar. Savings have been wiped out, salaries are effectively worthless, and people are struggling to afford basic necessities. This isn't ancient history, it's happening right now, showing us that the lessons from Rome and revolutionary France are as relevant as ever. So, what's the big takeaway from all these historical accounts? It's not to panic, but to understand that the concept of money is fundamentally a social contract, a shared belief in its value. When that belief erodes, due to excessive printing, war, political instability, or a lack of productive economic activity, the consequences can be catastrophic. What can we, as individuals, do with this knowledge? Firstly, it highlights the importance of financial literacy. Understanding how money works, how inflation impacts it, and the different forms wealth can take is absolutely crucial. Secondly, it reinforces the value of diversification. Relying solely on one type of asset or one currency can be risky. Exploring different avenues for saving and investing can provide a buffer against economic shocks. This could mean tangible assets or looking at stable investments. Thirdly, it teaches us the power of productive activity. Strong, diversified economies that produce goods and services people want are more resilient. When a society creates real value, its currency tends to be stronger. And finally, it's about being informed. Staying abreast of economic trends, both locally and globally, helps us make better decisions. The collapse isn't always a sudden, dramatic event. It often unfolds gradually, like a slow erosion. But the effects on everyday people are devastating. Understanding this history isn't about predicting the next crisis. It's about building resilience, both personally and collectively. It's about appreciating the stability we have and working to maintain it, and being prepared should unforeseen challenges arise. So, while the past shows us that financial collapse is a recurring theme, it also shows us the human spirit's incredible ability to adapt, innovate, and rebuild. By learning from these patterns, we can equip ourselves with the knowledge to make smarter choices for our financial well-being and contribute to a more stable future. What are your thoughts on these historical examples? Have you seen similar patterns in your own lifetime or in other countries? Share your insights in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspectives. If you found this deep dive into financial history valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.